When we usually think about karma or, the consequences of our actions, we tend to imagine this giant, invisible, almost metaphorical cosmic scale.
Right, yeah. Like you do something good, the scale tips slightly in your favor.
Exactly. You do something bad, it tips the other way. It's vague. It's poetic. We don't really expect to see the mass behind it.
No, definitely not. It's generally framed as this mysterious, unknowable force that just sort of balances out the universe eventually.
Right. We don't expect a literal microscopic ledger.
Mm-hmm.
But what if that cosmic scale wasn't metaphorical at all?
Well, that is exactly what we're getting into today.
Yeah, what if your spiritual state was governed by the exact same strict, unyielding laws as, like, chemistry or physics?
It's a fascinating
It
concept.
really is. So today, for our deep dive, we are exploring a translated text from 2005. It's by an author named Zhu Feng, and it's titled The Evolution of Life.
And I should mention, life is fully capitalized in the text, which is important, as we'll see.
Good point. We are basically looking at this highly intricate metaphysical framework. It takes physical science terminology, things like atoms, molecules, and electrons, and just forcibly merges them with profound spiritual concepts.
Right. Concepts like karma, reincarnation, and even global ecology. The mission here is really to map out the architecture of this idea.
Yeah, because it is a wildly unique lens for viewing human behavior, sickness, and, well, the balance of nature itself.
Absolutely. It's a massive system.
But before we jump into the mechanics of this, we are setting a very clear ground rule for you, the listener. We are not endorsing this theology.
Definitely not taking any sides here.
Right, we aren't taking any sides on its claims, ethical or otherwise. Our job today is to act purely as impartial guides.
We are just stepping inside the specific source text to, test its internal logic, to see how its structural rules operate.
Exactly. So to understand the massive macro-level ecological prophecies at the end of this text, which, spoiler alert, are intense, we have to start by zooming all the way in.
Yeah, the text argues that to understand the universe, we first have to look at the microscopic level of the human body.
Okay, let's unpack this. The fundamental premise starts by completely redefining what the word life actually means.
Right. And like I said, throughout the text, life is capitalized, and it is explicitly not referring to biological functions.
So it's not your beating heart or your breathing lungs.
No, not at all. The author draws a hard line between biological life and this capitalized concept of life.
How does he define it exactly?
The text defines life as a non-material structure with spirituality. So when this framework talks about human evolution, it is not talking about, like, Darwinian biology.
Right, it's not about the physical flesh evolving over millions of years.
Exactly. It is talking about real physical changes to microscopic material structures that we simply cannot see with the naked eye.
And the text gives a really compelling physical example to illustrate this invisible structure, doesn't it?
It does. It points to the Buddha's relics.
Oh, right, those physical pearl-like remains that are sometimes left behind in the ashes after eminent monks are cremated.
Yes, those exact relics. The author argues that while our physical bodies all look roughly the same on the macro level, flesh, bone, blood, those relics are tangible evidence of something deeper.
Tangible evidence that people are incredibly different on a microscopic structural level.
Exactly, and that structural difference is based entirely on their spiritual state.
It's wild.
Yeah.
So oh, wow. So it's almost as if we are walking, breathing spiritual mood rings.
That's a really good way to put it.
We are constantly shifting our invisible chemistry based on, what we are feeling inside and the physical environment we are standing in.
That analogy works perfectly because it emphasizes the chemical nature of this entire philosophy. You are constantly absorbing and reacting.
But the text emphasizes that these spiritual reactions are not just random or arbitrary. Right?
No, not at all. They obey strict, predictable laws. The text claims these laws are literally identical to chemical reactions.
And it uses a very vivid illustration to explain these laws. I mean, in chemistry, limestone and water reacts violently when they meet.
Right, but oil and water have almost zero reaction. They just kind of sit next to each other.
Exactly. And the author applies this exact same strict chemical logic to human behavior.
The premise is that matter only reacts to its specific corresponding catalysts.
Right. And the example given in the text, which is quite specific, is a lustful man.
Oh yeah, this part is really memorable.
It says that when a lustful man sees a sexy, underclad woman, his internal chemistry reacts violently to that specific external force.
He has a surging, sweaty, uncoordinated physical reaction.
Right. But his body will have absolutely zero reaction to seeing a pig.
And the text specifically notes this, which is so strange, a sexy one that is lactating.
I know. It is a bizarre and striking example. But it perfectly underscores the mechanical logic the text is trying to build, doesn't it?
It really does. The lustful man's microscopic structure is chemically tuned to react to the woman.
And it totally lacks the catalyst to react to the pig.
Exactly. And every time a reaction like that happens, every time there is a shift in internal emotion or an encounter with an external force, the human body undergoes composition and decomposition.
At the completely invisible level. So we have these tiny invisible chemical reactions happening thousands of times a day based on our moods and our environment.
Which naturally leads to the question of accumulation.
Right. What happens when all those microscopic changes start to pile up over a lifetime?
Well, that brings us to the core accounting mechanism of this entire philosophy.
The spiritual ledger.
Exactly. When those tiny structural changes accumulate to a saturated condition, the non-material structure of the life reaches a new, stable state on a different level.
And the text measures this accumulation through a literal system of electrons, right?
Yes. And this isn't just a vague, do good things, get good karma system.
No, it's super specific. This is an exact mathematical accounting ledger based on gaining and losing electrons in your atomic structure.
According to the text, a human being starts with an intrinsic baseline of 100 electrons.
Just a flat 100.
Yep, that 100 electron mark is the baseline frequency for the human structure.
Okay. And if you continually gain electrons through microscopic evolution, say you accumulate 900 more.
Reaching a total of 1,000 electrons, that's when a profound qualitative leap occurs.
You essentially max out your human capacity. What happens then?
At that very moment of hitting 1,000, your non-material structure as a person disintegrates. You experience what we call biological death, but you are instantaneously born as a celestial being.
Your structure has simply evolved to a higher life dimension. That's kind of beautiful in a weirdly mathematical way.
It is, but the math goes the other way too. And the deductions for bad behavior are incredibly specific.
Oh man, here is where it gets really interesting. It reads like a cosmic credit score, or like an arcade game where you're losing points.
Completely. The text lists exact deductions for very specific actions.
Like losing 6 electrons for publicizing ghosts and monsters and polluting people's spirituality.
Right. And you lose 4 electrons for concocting various pretexts to force someone to bribe.
Okay, it's specific. And you lose 3 electrons for taking pleasure in other people's misfortune and ruining their success.
The list continues into environmental and social behaviors too. You lose 2 electrons for destroying woodlands, digging grasses, and filling ponds.
Filling ponds costs you 2 electrons. Got it.
What else? Another 2 for passing the buck and shifting your misfortune onto someone else.
That one I kind of agree with.
You lose 1 electron for envying others' honor. And finally, you lose 1 electron for beating your spouse, nagging your sons, or breaching etiquette toward elders.
Okay, wait. I have to stop us here and challenge this because the moral math is completely staggering.
It definitely catches you off guard.
You lose 6 electrons for telling a ghost story, but only 1 electron for domestic abuse.
Yeah, that ratio is hard to process.
How does the text possibly justify a ghost story being 6 times worse for your spiritual structure than physically beating your spouse?
It is jarring. But to understand it, we have to look through the text's specific hierarchy of damage.
Okay, break that down for me.
Well, in this framework, the physical body is totally temporary. It is a biological vessel that will inevitably decay anyway.
Right, the flesh doesn't matter.
Exactly. But the spiritual structure, that non-material life, is eternal. It dictates your entire existence across dimensions.
So inflicting physical pain on a spouse is categorized as like a low-level earthly offense.
Yes, exactly. It degrades your structure slightly, but it's fundamentally physical damage.
But polluting spirituality, that's viewed as structural sabotage.
That is the internal logic here. Publicizing ghosts and monsters corrupts the eternal architecture of other people.
Oh, I see. The text treats it like releasing a multidimensional virus.
Precisely. You aren't just hurting someone's temporary physical body, you are actively degrading their eternal electron count. Therefore, the cosmic penalty is far more severe.
Okay, so it's prioritizing the metaphysical over the physical to an extreme degree. I mean, I don't have to agree with it, but I see the architectural logic at play there.
It's consistent within its own rules.
It is. And if we look at the specific math of the deductions I just laid out, from the ghosts down to the envy and abuse, it adds up to exactly 19 lost electrons.
And that number is not random.
No, it's not. If you start at the baseline of 100 and lose those 19, you drop to 81 electrons. Why does the text focus so heavily on the number 81?
Because the number 81 is a critical failure threshold.
A failure threshold. What does that mean?
The text states that at 81 electrons, the structure of your life is approaching that of a dog. Yes. If you are sitting at 81 and you lose just one more electron, say you pass the buck at work, or you envy a neighbor, dropping your score to 80, you die immediately.
Wait, immediately?
Immediately. You die and reincarnate as a dog. Your life structure has degraded to a point where you literally can no longer physiologically hold the human form.
Think about that for a second. I mean, think about your own day-to-day.
It makes you hyper-aware of your thoughts.
Seriously. Did you sit in traffic and take pleasure in someone else getting pulled over? According to this math, you just physically degraded your atomic structure.
You lost 3 electrons right there.
And if you cross that threshold, you literally cannot exist as a person anymore. This completely redefines how we think about mortality.
It does. It completely removes the concept of random tragedy.
Right. If this score dictates our life form, how does this explain the timing of human death? I mean, what about car crashes?
In this framework, sudden deaths, whether it's someone passing away in their youth, dying in a car crash, or suffering an unexpected heart attack, are not random accidents.
They aren't biological failures or just bad luck.
No, they occur at the precise microscopic moment an electron threshold is crossed.
So the universe simply evicts you.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
Your score hits the exact number for a higher or lower life structure, and the text says you have to begin a new life journey.
Because your current biological house can no longer hold your altered chemical structure.
That is wild. Does this logic also apply to prolonged illness? Like when people are sick for a very long time?
It does. The text explains that some elderly people suffer for long periods in bed because their number of electrons is changing too slowly.
Oh, so they are just stuck in a transitional phase between structures.
Exactly. They are hovering right on the threshold, slowly gaining or losing that final electron.
The text actually offers advice for people stuck in that situation, doesn't it?
Yes, very practical, practical for this framework.
It says the worst thing a dying person can do is curse others, blaspheme the gods, or abuse children.
Right, because generating those internal negative forces would rapidly shed electrons.
And downgrade their next life form right at the finish line. So the good solution is to wish for world peace, pray for everyone's happiness, and wish well even to those who hurt them.
And the author adds a very specific and kind of bizarre recommendation.
Oh, I love this part.
The dying person should invite people who have expert knowledge of 36-dimensional space and life transmigration theory to their bedside.
I mean, what does an expert in 36-dimensional space even do at a hospital bed? Are they bringing a whiteboard?
Their role is really to interpret the higher-level life spaces for the dying person.
Okay, so kind of like a metaphysical tour guide.
Exactly. They are there to conceptually untether the patient from their physical existence, to help them let go of their mortal worries, forget their earthly merits, and prepare their non-material structure.
Prepare to enter a space tunnel without resistance.
Yeah.
Which is just, I mean, the mention of 36-dimensional space brings us to perhaps the wildest concept in the entire text.
It gets even more complex when we look at the beginning of life.
Right. We've talked about how life ends and transitions, but what actually happens when a new life is born? The text introduces the concept of the empty residence.
This is fascinating. The text states that from time immemorial, humanity has fundamentally misunderstood what a fetus actually is.
Fetuses are not lives. They are simply residences.
The exact terminology the text uses is anode black hole bodies in 36-dimensional space.
We cannot just breeze past that jargon. Anode black hole bodies. What does that actually mean in plain English? Are we talking about literal gravity wells inside a person?
Let's break down the physics terms the author is borrowing here. An anode is a positively charged electrode.
And its primary function is to attract electrons, right?
Exactly. And a black hole obviously represents an area of immense gravitational pull.
So the text is using these terms to describe the metaphysical function of the womb.
Yes. The developing flesh of the fetus generates a kind of metaphysical vacuum.
So the physical fetus is acting like a multidimensional magnet.
That's a perfect analogy. It is an empty biological house emitting a beacon into 36-dimensional space.
Trying to pull a specific non-material life structure, a soul, with the correct corresponding electron countdown through a space tunnel to inhabit it.
Exactly. The fetus is essentially a piece of biological hardware waiting for the operating system to be downloaded.
That is such a cool way to visualize it. And the text says that life usually only enters the fetus a few days before the baby is born.
But sometimes there is a delay.
Right. If you have ever wondered why a baby is born past its due date, this framework has a fascinating answer for that.
It completely removes the medical anxiety and replaces it with a cosmic logistics issue.
An overdue baby just means the soul hasn't arrived at the new house yet.
The required electrons for a new life structure were met by someone dying elsewhere, but the new residence wasn't quite ready to accommodate them.
So the life is just waiting in transit, like at an airport terminal.
Exactly. And notice how this entire framework takes life's most chaotic, unpredictable, and heartbreaking events.
Like random tragedies, drawn-out sicknesses, stressful, overdue pregnancies.
And it forces them all into a rigid, mathematical, perfectly logical system.
It takes the terrifying chaos of human existence and turns it into a balanced equation.
It's comforting in a very strict way.
It is. But what happens when we scale this up? If individuals are constantly gaining and losing electrons, getting evicted from their bodies, and moving between dimensions.
What happens when billions of individual scores shift all at once?
Yeah. Does the entire planet have an electron score?
When we zoom out to the global scale, the text argues that the balance of the entire planet is indeed governed by these same rules.
And according to the author, Earth is currently facing an unprecedented ecological crisis because of it.
But the root of this crisis is completely counterintuitive to how we normally think about ecology.
Right. Normally we blame industrialization, carbon emissions, or habitat loss.
But the text points out that the human population on Earth is exploding, while the animal population is rapidly decreasing.
And it provides a purely metaphysical explanation for this, based on the electron economy.
It comes back to the law of accumulated merits. The text claims that animals killed by humans have made great contributions to humanity.
By serving as food or resources, right?
Exactly. And by doing so, these animals accumulate massive merits and virtues.
So because of this positive energy accumulation, their microscopic structures evolve.
And when they die, they reincarnate as humans.
Okay, so the animals are gaining electrons and upgrading, but the human side of the equation is broken.
It's completely stalled.
Humans aren't killing each other at the massive rates they used to in ancient history, and the vast majority of modern humans aren't directly killing animals.
Therefore, humans are not losing enough electrons to degrade their life structure back down to the 81 electron animal level.
It is a cosmic bottleneck in the reincarnation cycle.
That's exactly what it is. Animals are continuously moving up the dimensional ladder to become humans.
But humans are not moving down the ladder to replenish the animal ecosystem.
The text warns that if this one-way flow continues, the ecological balance will shatter entirely, leading to the greatest calamity.
So how does the Earth fix a multidimensional traffic jam?
The text outlines 4 very specific solutions to correct this cosmic imbalance.
Okay, let's go through them. Solution number 1.
Solution number 1 is organic evolution. Humanity could collectively gain those 900 electrons, evolve toward the high-level life spaces, and migrate off Earth.
To what the text calls the 1,000-year world and the 10,000-year world.
Right, thereby organically reducing the population on Earth.
That seems like a best-case scenario. What's solution number 2?
Solution number 2 requires immediate self-awakening. Humanity must voluntarily control its population growth and aggressively protect animal reproduction.
That sounds reasonable enough.
But the second half of this solution is quite severe. It involves forcibly transferring a segment of the human population down to the animal level to immediately restore the balance.
Yikes. So just forcefully downgrading people. The text admits that forcibly downgrading a human soul into an animal body is unjust.
Well, it does admit that, but it promises cosmic compensation.
Cosmic compensation. I love that phrasing.
It says the greatest creator will deposit large stocks of wealth into the spiritual banks of those who are forcibly transformed.
Oh, okay. So when the Earth's ecosystem is finally balanced again, those downgraded souls will be reborn back into the human world with high positions and massive wealth.
It is essentially an involuntary sacrifice for the systemic good, backed by a divine guarantee.
It's exactly like being involuntarily bumped from a heavily overbooked flight.
Oh, that's a brilliant comparison.
The airline kicks you off the plane because of a systemic error, but they hand you a massive first-class voucher for your next flight to make up for it.
The mechanics are remarkably similar, yeah. However, if humanity cannot achieve solution 1 or 2 voluntarily, the text moves to solution 3.
which is natural correction.
Hmm.
Pestilence, war, and starvation will sweep the globe to forcefully eliminate the excess human population.
And that would violently relieve the ecological bottleneck.
Which leads us to the fourth and most dramatic special solution.
The text warns of the last phase of an age.
It references ancient prophecies by Jesus and Sakyamuni, the Buddha warning of a time when every phenomenon in heaven will vibrate.
The sun will blacken, the moon will go dark, and people will be consumed by terror.
Very apocalyptic.
It is. And this is where the text reveals its ultimate purpose.
Right, the real reason it was written.
It states that the emergence of Lifechanyuan, which is the specific organization and philosophy behind this text, happened entirely to enlighten people.
To help humanity navigate and hopefully avoid this terrifying last phase of the age.
Because the underlying logic is that gods and Buddhas are fundamentally humane, and the greatest creator loves humanity.
So the text isn't just a philosophical observation. It is a direct intervention.
Exactly. It is offering humanity the blueprint of the microscopic engine running the universe.
It's waving a flag and hoping we will read the manual before we permanently break the machine.
And the author, Shufeng, leaves it right there at the end of the text. He openly invites scientists, philosophers, and theologians to argue with the framework.
He essentially says, here is the architectural blueprint for the evolution of life. If you don't agree with the physics of it, fine, continue with your old lifestyle.
It is a remarkably confident way to conclude a sweeping, all-encompassing metaphysical treatise.
It really is. I mean, let's take a breath and look at the wild journey we just took through this material today.
It covers so much ground.
We started with the premise that our bodies are microscopic spiritual mood rings, constantly altering their invisible chemical structures based on fleeting internal emotions and external environments.
And then we explored the meticulous electron-based economy of karma,
where the loss of exactly 19 electrons pushes your physical structure to the absolute brink of the animal kingdom.
We unpacked the concept of 36-dimensional space worms,
where biological fetuses are simply empty, multidimensional magnets waiting for an electron-compatible soul to travel through a space tunnel.
And finally, we zoomed out to a cosmic ecological crisis driven by a bottleneck in the reincarnation cycle.
Examining the extreme, systemic measures required to rebalance the population of the Earth. It is just a staggering amount of highly specific, unconventional logic.
It really is. But when you step back and look at the architecture of this text as a whole, it reflects something deeply and universally human.
That we inherently crave structure.
Exactly. This deep dive highlights that core human desire perfectly. We want to know that the chaos of daily life has a blueprint.
We want to believe that our minor actions, our hidden struggles, the random tragedies we witness in the news,
and the vast, shifting natural world around us are all connected by a grand, understandable design.
A design where nothing is truly arbitrary, and nothing is ever permanently lost, merely structurally transformed.
It attempts to make the invisible visible.
It does. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over as you go about your day.
Something to really think about.
If the premise of this text holds true, if your microscopic spiritual structure is constantly physically being altered by your internal emotions and your external environment,
think about what you are exposing yourself to right now.
What invisible material are you building inside your own structure today just by the media you consume, the environment you choose to sit in, or the fleeting frustrations you hold on to during your daily commute?
Are you gaining electrons or are you losing them?
Keep diving deep.